Hello, Garland Nixon here, hanging out with Laith Marouf. We got a lot to talk about, things going on in the Middle East. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here, and we're talking with Laith Marouf. Hold on a second before we get going. We've got to go do the important stuff and get started. What you need to know, and this is critical. If you don't remember anything else, if you don't remember a word, if your sound goes out after I do this part of it, make sure that you go to freepalestine.video. Look at that, man. That is an awesome website, one of the best out there. And when it comes to getting actual English language information coming out of the Middle East, doesn't get any better than that. You can see here, you got latest episodes. Over here, you got field reports, you got military operations. You want to see what's happening there. Laith and his crew, they go in dangerous areas. You'll see them videos in areas where you can hear machine gun fire and drones and bombs in the background, and them explaining what's going on. It really gives you a tremendous understanding of what's happening there. It's in English language. So freepalestine.video, that's Free Palestine TV, but the actual website is freepalestine.video. And of course, here's the important part right there. You see the little red stripe? Donate to Free Palestine TV. Help fund our community television station so we can bring you live information from the war for the liberation of Palestine. And when you donate, you'll notice there it says one time, but please, if you're able to, click monthly. You may be able to give a little bit monthly. You may not be able to give a lot, but whatever you can, if you can give a little bit monthly and become a recurring, revenue for them, that really helps. So if you can do monthly, that would be a great thing. Freepalestine.video. Make sure you donate, whether you can or can donate. The important thing is share freepalestine.video on all your social media platforms. And when you put the post up, make sure you put a little, something up there written that advocates for others to go to freepalestine.video, and to donate. This is important. I'm very, very proud to be a part of Laith's community and proud that my channel can be used to help to get this kind of important information out. All right, let's get to it, Laith. Let's start here. A lot of big things going on. Here's one I'm very curious about. We always hear about the Mossad and the CIA, and they're ubiquitous. They're everywhere. They can do anything in the world. Apparently, they can't stop Iranian intelligence, because Iranian intelligence, from what we're reading, has had quite an intelligence haul. What do we need to know?
Yeah, the Iranians announced that they had a successful operation infiltrating the information systems of the Israeli government, and were able to haul a lot of their nuclear weapon program information, as well as their foreign affairs internal documents about their relationship with vassal Arabic states and Western states in general also. And so what they're starting to release part of this information slowly. Of course, the Iranians will want to make as much of a propaganda show of this as possible. And we just saw the first files coming out about the attempts by Israel and the Israeli government to overthrow the president of Egypt, Sisi, and break up basically Egypt. So this is just another proof for anyone in the Arabic world that nobody is safe from Israel. And I think Egypt is definitely a priority target for the Israelis, because as we see, Israel wants to destroy every army in the Arabic world, even if it's a vassal army. They want to break up any large Arabic state, and Egypt is the largest Arabic state, 120 million of the population, and has an army that has been preserved and is in full capacity. So they fear that one day some patriot will get into power in Egypt and then it will get out of their hands. So they'd rather break it up now, even though that they have a vassal, and destroy the Egyptian army than ever worrying in the future that there could be a patriot that comes into power. And this is to show you how devilish they are, of course, and that nobody should ever give their back to the Zionists. You never know the knife when it's going to land there.
That's a fact. That what's interesting too. Also, one other thing I'd like to ask you about Iran, and this is a conversation that's being had here a lot, and that is that apparently the Americans have made some kind of threats to the Iranians. You have to take a deal. And by the way, if it's under threat, that's not called a deal, by the way. A deal means that you and I come up with it. If I say, you have to take this or I'll kill you, that's not a deal. Deal is not the word that you use when you tell somebody, you better do what I tell you or I'll kill you. But I say this. The discussion that's being had here is this. How in the world are they? Why would the Iranians be afraid? The Houthis beat the crap out of them and ran them out of the Red Sea. And the Houthis don't have one hundredth of 1% of the power of Iran. That in reality, the U.S. is considerably militarily and economically weaker than it was in the past, and it doesn't have the horsepower to push Iran around now. It doesn't have the military horsepower in the region to force Iran or to even attack Iran. In my opinion, successfully, they'll take a nasty beating. Your thoughts?
Yeah, the whole of intelligence by the Iranians included a lot of information about the nuclear capabilities of the Zionists, their military program, their reactors. And so I think the Iranians highlighting this before they released the Egyptian papers is a warning to the Zionists and the Americans that the whole nuclear program of Iran, of Israel, is now exposed by Iran. They know where the hideouts of their weapons are, they know where their reactors are, and so forth. So that's, I think, one of the main signals that were sent by Iran with this, and it's in reply to the American threats. Now, let's take a second here and step back for a minute. You mentioned how Yemen defeated the United States, which
humiliated is one of bigger words. Humiliated.
Yes, yes, and one of the clear outcomes of this battle is that that the United States will not be able to use neither its aircraft carriers nor its air bases in Arabic countries to attack Iran, because it didn't use those air bases to attack Yemen, fearing that the oil and gas of its vassals will be destroyed. And its use of the aircraft carriers almost sunk those nuclear reactor-powered aircraft carriers. So those are out of the picture in any confrontation with Iran. Therefore, the only possible avenue for U.S. attack is to go through the Zionist colony, either pretending it's Israel attacking and flying all those F-35s and others from Israeli airfields, and or joining the attack, but only using openly using Israeli airfields. In the eventuality of this happening, I think everybody should be ready for mass use of nuclear weapons and mass use of mass fallout of nuclear pollution. Because I say this because I believe we're already in nuclear war since the attacks on Yemen in 2016, 2017, with the use of those huge bombs, tactical nukes that took out half of the mountain overlooking Yemen, overlooking Sana'a, and the attack on the port of Beirut, and finally the attack in Tartus a few months ago. And lately, I just want to make this clear that there is much smaller tactical nukes that are being used. The American military likes to use the word depleted uranium, which is a word that they fabricated to distract people and to make you think that they're using something that is not highly nuclear. But what they've been doing is that they upgraded those weapons that we saw used on Iraq, and now these heads don't only have low enriched uranium on them, but also that low enriched uranium is caked between layers of what's this called, deuterium. Okay, and so when the deuterium explodes, it creates a huge furnace of temperatures that are very high, and it fires neutrons, which hit the uranium and create a nuclear fission that is very small, that is very directed. So those buildings that are being attacked in Lebanon and in Gaza, when the rescue crews are coming and saying we can't find any bodies inside them, we can't find fridges, microwave, any furniture left, all evaporated. This is because of those tactical nukes that are being used. And the reality is we're already in a nuclear war age. None of the major players want to admit it, neither the United States or Russia or China or Iran even want to admit that we are already in a nuclear war age. Just like we're already in a world war. Since the Russian and the American troops landed on the same battlefield in Syria in 2015, we had already entered the world war that is undeclared. And that was followed within 6 months, of course, with the coup in Ukraine and the takeover and the war beginning there. So we're already in a world war, and we're already in a nuclear war reality, and none of the players want to admit those things.
I would even go further to say this: if you look at the malicious actions of the U.S. and the British Empire since World War II, to them, World War II never stopped. Because what was it? They armed Germany to utilize Germany to really run the world. They were going to take the Soviet Union. They were going to get all those natural resources, gas and all. And of course, on to China, blah, blah, blah. And even after it was over, there was the discussion about, well, let's take what's left of Germany and everyone else, and we'll go after Russia. So they never even thought, okay, well, we lost. They claimed they lost. But what did they do? They continued in the Middle East. They continued in Africa. They continued in South America. They continued their world war. And as soon as they start, okay, we've got another Nazi regime built up enough, we'll try Russia again. Now, what did they do? Well, let's get Japan built up again. We'll try China again. They never, to me, the U.S. and the British Empire never, ever abandoned their brutal, vicious, murderous rampage to rule the world. And so is it World War II, III? To me, World War II, to these monsters, World War II never stopped. World War II was their murderous rampage to rule the world. And please, somebody show me when they stopped their genocidal, murderous campaign,
The first day after the liberation of France and the declaration of end of World War II, tens of thousands of Arabic fighters that were forcefully put into the French Legion to fight the Nazis in North Africa, they all celebrated and demanded their equality. And on that same day, France killed 40,000 Arab fighters that were part of the Legion as a punishment for them for thinking that they can get equality at the end of World War II. So, I mean, for us as Arabs, we know from day one of the end of World War II that it never ended, and we are now, we're always the first target, and the distraction was the internal fight between the Europeans over who's the most superior above us all. So, similarly, I would say, for us here, World War I never ended.
Exactly.
We're still living the results of Sykes-Picot and the Zionist colony creation and we're still fighting it, and no resolution has come to that yet. And I would finally say that, look, the Arabic world has been the stumbling block in front of total domination by the West of humanity. And because of the Arabic world being united, 700 years ago, this is why the Europeans tried to go around the Arabic world to reach India, and by accident found the Americas, and went on their rampage and so forth. You had all those wars of conquest in the Americas, in Oceania, in Africa, before they finally surrounded the Arabic world and occupied it in World War I. Right? So we're kind of the last stage in the rise of white supremacy and imperialism and genocide. And until now, we're stuck in that moment. They haven't been able to conquer the Arabic people completely. There's still the Palestinians and Lebanese and others resisting, and that's making their efforts to capture China and Russia very hard. They've been stuck here for 30 years since the collapse of the Soviet Union, unable to defeat the will of the Arabic people. They may have defeated a lot of Arabic armies and states, but the will of the Arabic people hasn't been defeated, and the Arabs are a little bit loco about these things, and go against unreasonable odds, unimaginable odds, and still continue. So of course, everybody on this planet, every freedom-seeking peoples on this planet that want an end to Western imperialism have to cheer the Arabic people, have to support the Arabic people, the Palestinian people specifically, and those around them supporting them, to try to defeat the empire, to protect everybody else.
Yes, and I'm really excited. I have a guest coming on later from Nigeria, a Nigerian actor that I bring on to talk about what's happening in the Sahel region. I think that's very important. It's important that all parts of the world that have the ability to resist continue to resist wherever they are and wherever they can. Now, there is a boat with Greta Thunberg or something. She's the big name, I guess, or whatever. I don't know that much about Greta Thunberg. I know she was the darling of the liberals, and now she's a horrible anti-Semite or something like that. This crap just kills me. But anyway, what do we know about this boat?
Yeah, so it's carrying all these international activists, including Rima Hassan, a member of the European Parliament, French member of the European Parliament. And, of course, the Zionists kidnapped them and pirated basically the boat. And now they're being held in Ashdod port, and they're being forced like a clockwork orange to watch this October 7th mass rape propaganda videos. So you could imagine them being held like that in the, and of course they're all going to receive full cavity search. Who knows if some of them may get raped? That's another story. I say this, of course, hoping these people are safe, but I do have criticisms for this effort. I personally was involved in the Mavi Marmara, flotilla in 2009, the one that the Israeli military landed on and killed the activists then. And at the end of that Mavi Marmara, I decided that I wasn't going to be involved in any more of these flotilla boats because, as Einstein says, the definition of insanity is repeating the same experiment over and over and expecting a different result. So it was clear from the beginning of this effort that the Israelis are going to stop it. They're going to confiscate everything. They're going to have all the food and the money for themselves. And everybody's going to be strip-searched and thrown back to their countries. And nothing's going to come out of it except this propaganda win for the Zionists. And I'm shocked at those who are organizing this, that they haven't, thought about the various scenarios of outcomes for such a thing, and that they didn't study to design it to have a better outcome. I mean, there was a friend of mine a couple of days ago that prompted DeepSeek, the Chinese AI, to give him multiple scenarios of what's going to happen to the flotilla, the boat, and order them in best for the Palestinian cause to worst of the Palestinian cause. And the worst scenario that DeepSeek gave was that the Israelis just capture the boat and don't harm the activists on board, film themselves giving them water and cookies as they did, and then deport them and take everything. That's the worst case scenario for the Palestinian cause. You just lost hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars on this effort for nothing. And you didn't even get a propaganda win. And the best case scenario, according to DeepSeek, was that Greta Thunberg gets killed on the boat. Okay. And that would have led to all this international reaction. And again, I wasn't hoping for
Certainly, yeah.
And the middle scenario was the boat reaches Gaza and actually delivers the aid and leaves safely. That would have been neutrally not good or bad for the Palestinians, except good in terms of delivery of aid. So, I mean, if you're not a strategist and you're designing such a thing, at least prompt an AI to tell you about it. It's really ridiculous. So I personally have advocated for years now, because I know the finances of these efforts, the Gaza boat flotillas. It costs a minimum of $300,000, $400,000 to have one of these boats equipped, let alone talking about the aid inside it. I saw over 12 years in Canada from my own 12 boat efforts, each one of them wasting $500,000, none of them reaching or so forth. So there's other ways that you can design these actions to have a better outcome and not waste money for nothing. Similarly, I've told this to everybody before, that this boat shouldn't have landed in Gaza. It should have landed in the Rafah in Sinai, Egypt, on the other side of the border, and put the weaker link in the blockade, which is the Egyptian government and Egyptian military that is enforcing this blockade, is the weakest link. Put them under pressure. Let the Egyptian Navy, Egyptian military attack the flotilla, because we know, even though that Sisi is a vessel, the elite in the West would not be happy that he would harm some whiteys on a boat, right? Right? Similarly, now we have this caravan coming from Algeria and Tunis and Libya to break the siege. It's mainly going to be Arabic activists. Is the Egyptian government going to have any problem killing Arabic activists coming from Algeria to break the siege? Would the Western media give a damn if Arab activists are killed by the Egyptian military? Well, if the Israeli military goes and bombs this caravan, would anybody give a damn about it? No. So if we want to bring international activists, white activists, Jewish activists, we should bring them to the border of Egypt, to Gaza, and let the Egyptian military and Israeli military deal with these Western activists the same way they deal with Arabs. That will have a better outcome. There's a very realistic possibility that if you had, thousands upon thousands of Western activists coming to Egypt to try to break the siege to Gaza, that a confrontation with the Egyptian military would trigger a revolt within the Egyptian military, would trigger a revolt within the Egyptian population that's boiling under the surface, but too scared to confront their own government. So that's a way to design even nonviolent actions that have actually outcomes that are better for the movement. So why waste so much money? Why design actions that already are foretold their result as failure? Other than, in my opinion, people making money out of this.
Next, something that I wanted to ask you about, and that is, and I think this is an important story that's being um, suppressed, ignored, that there are some Syrian resistance groups, not just resistance to the ISIS rulership of the ISIS puppet rulership of Syria, but also they're starting to launch some operations against the Israeli regime.
Yeah, there was Katyusha missiles fired from the area that the Zionists are occupying since January in Syria, in the south of Syria, so in the foothills of the Golan Heights. And that triggered, attacks by the Zionists on Daraa city and its surrounding. Daraa is right on the border with Jordan. It's the main border crossing between Jordan and Syria. And those condemnations from the ISIS president al-Jolani against anyone that fired on Israel, saying that we have, want to have great relations with all our neighbors. And this is all kind of part of the ethnic cleansing campaign that the Israelis and al-Jolani are conducting against specifically the Druze in South Syria. The areas that are occupied in the Golan Heights and in the foothills now are all mainly Druze villages. There was 250,000 Syrians that were expelled from the Golan Heights in 1967, and another 200,000 since the fall of the Assad government have been ethnically cleansed from the foothills of the Golan. And those people are right now are the ones that are carrying arms to defend their homes, to liberate their own homes. And this is why al-Jolani is targeting the Druze neighborhoods in Damascus and in the Suwaida area, the Druze towns. And so I think this is very important actions, and it's will have long-term consequences. And this shows us that the Israelis failed to get the Druze populations in Syria to kind of secede from Syria, or to accept Israeli protection from the monster that Israel let loose inside Syria. Another thing that we should talk about, I think, and that connects to all of this, is the ISIS gangs in Gaza that have been now, the Israelis admitted, including Netanyahu, that is arming and financing ISIS gangs inside Gaza to kill Hamas and fight Hamas and target people going to the aid distribution areas. And that shows you how this symbiosis relationship exists. And most probably ISIS has been involved as cannon fodder since October 7th inside Gaza, fighting on behalf of the Zionists. And partially what we see in Syria is all connected to this.
Yeah, it's very interesting that, for so long, the U.S. empire hid its alliance with the ISIS and with these, crazy fighters. And now that the empire is threatened, is weakening, it can't afford the luxury of hiding it anymore. So now it's just kind of like, okay, Jolani, we got a fake a $10 million bounty on his head. Like they didn't know where he worked for them, but they couldn't find him. They had to have a $10 million bounty on his head. That was a joke. But now it's, you know what? Okay, Trump's shaking hands with the ISIS fighters and, oh, they're great. We're going to, and supposedly, yes, we're lifting the sanctions on Syria. No, they're not. They're just making it easier to do money laundering through Syria now and to continue to loot Syria. It's just unbelievable. And the Israelis are right. Okay, yeah, ISIS, they're working for us, which we're all better off that this is out in the open. Allows people to make better decisions. Lebanon, I understand that the Israelis have been launching more attacks on Lebanon. What do we need to know about that?
Yeah, over the Eid Eve on Friday, the Zionist Air Force decided to bombard Beirut, southern suburb, and the south of Lebanon. They attacked, 8 buildings in the southern suburb. They had given warnings, and they claimed originally that Hezbollah has drone factories inside these buildings, and the Lebanese military rushed to those buildings and was searching them. And the Israelis fired warning missiles, as they call them, drone missiles, and that, to chase away the Lebanese army so nobody can prove their lie. And then they went on this rampage. They targeted residential blocks that haven't been targeted throughout the war. So these are some of the blocks that were kind of the most intact in the southern suburb. And, around each of those 8 buildings that they destroyed, 6 or 8 buildings around them are all damaged and their foundations damaged. So also people had to be evacuated from those buildings. There was at least 2 mosques damaged. And the main vocational school for disability communities in Lebanon is like a college with restaurant and hotel services and agricultural and crafts and so on for people with disabilities to give them training. This is the main school in Lebanon, and it's now completely destroyed. All its windows, all its laboratories, its gardens, and so forth. So now the disabilities communities have no educational avenues in Lebanon. They also attacked in the south, the village of Ain Qana, multiple buildings, again, just randomly attacking these residential buildings. And these some of those buildings that they destroyed are like chalets or cottages that are rentals. Ain Qana is like in a very touristic area, high mountain, and it was the Eid long weekend holiday. So a lot of city dwellers from Beirut would go to the south to these locations that are higher in the mountains to have a nice weekend, and they all had to run away as this was happening. So they were trying to ruin the Eid for everybody and to destroy locations that haven't been targeted before just for the hell of it. And this is what it means to live with a neighbor like the Zionists.
Well, yeah. Well, the bottom line is, as I keep saying, the U.S. empire is weakening, and it's just striking out in all directions. I just think a lot of these attacks on Lebanon are simply because it's just a reflection of violence. They're just like, let's bomb somewhere. Let's pick some targets. Why? Because they're just attacking and bombing. It's just a out of control monster. This is a monster. And I'll add this one other thing, and I think this is important to understand. We see it here, we see it in Ukraine, Russia, wherever. When the empire is losing on the battlefield, it just says, well, I'll go kill some civilians. I'll attack some civilian targets, because they can't, if they go toe to toe with any people who are military people, people who are fighting to protect their land, people who are fighting to protect their heritage, people that are fighting for something, because these people are fighting for nothing but imperialism. Anytime they go to toe with people like that, they lose every time. And when they're humiliated and they lose because they can't fight a battle against warriors, they simply attack targets in fury and anger. And they have to try to pretend like they have power somewhere. So they have to bomb innocent, defenseless targets just to show that to demonstrate to themselves, I think more than anyone else, that they still have some power, even though they just continually lose.
Yes. And they have to, there's the lowest common denominator of who they are appealing to, and they're appealing to people that want to see a vicious empire that cannot be doesn't back down and so forth, right? So it's the same idea of the Zionists talking about weak Jews in the Holocaust, and now you don't F around with the Jews. Look at what we can do, right? So the mass killing is trying to appeal to this part of the population in the West that sees mass killing as strength, as a deterrence. Genocide is a deterrence to anyone that wants to challenge our will, our rule. And they're kind of throwing us back to the 1700s and 1600s of those mass genocides of indigenous people that dared resist, right? And so I think the main problem for the West going down this path now is that unlike the 1700s, we have nonstop media, wall to wall, 24 hours a day, broadcasting on social networks and satellites and what have you. So the crimes that the West committed to colonize the Americas that were hidden from humanity for hundreds of years are now broadcasted to us momentarily. So there's a limit to how far the West can continue this path without triggering total isolation of the West from the rest of humanity. And when that reaches that point is clearly when we will have an outright outbreak of a world war, and we're marching towards that eventuality.
Yeah. Yes. The weaker that the empire is exposed, the more it's exposed to be weaker, the crazier as it gets to do anything to demonstrate its strength. There's something else I wanted to ask you about that was very important. And it had to do with that, but I lost it. But what's going on in Gaza anyway with the fighting? What do we know about currently? What's happening with the fighting, with the resistance fighting, with the military operations that you know of inside of the occupied Palestine, West Bank, all of that stuff?
Yeah. So obviously the biggest story right now is the mass starvation. Many of the people are at the edge of that. We hear people haven't eaten in 3-4 days. We know that there's at least 5,000 miscarriages over the last 4 weeks in Gaza. So that tells you about the health of those pregnant women. And even this morning we heard of the resistance achieving a trap, where they dragged a platoon of Israelis, enticed them to go into a building before blowing it up on them. And at the same time, we had this admittance by Netanyahu and Avigdor Lieberman, who used to be Netanyahu's best buddy, that they are using ISIS, this Abu Shabab gang. And at the same time, we heard this morning that in Damascus, I'm sorry, I'm jumping a little bit on the story here, but in Damascus, in the Yarmouk refugee camp, there is the martyrs graveyard for Palestinian fighters. And one of the founders of the PFLP, Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, Ahmad Jibril, is buried there. ISIS, HTS, Jolani gangs desecrated his grave and pulled out his remains and disappeared them. Jibril was one of the most important Palestinian resistance strategists militarily. He was responsible for the Operation Galilee in the late 1990s, and where that led to the largest release of Palestinian prisoners up until now. 1,000 Palestinian prisoners were released, including the founder of Hamas, Sheikh Ahmad Yassin, the quadriplegic founder of Hamas, and the current leader of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Both of them were released in that exchange that was a result of an operation that Ahmad Jibril designed and the PFLP. So we can see how ISIS in Syria, ISIS in Gaza, they're all working against Palestinian resistance. They're working hand in hand with the Zionists, both inside Syria and inside Palestine. And we add on top of it that Abu Shabab gang, they were filmed with pickup trucks with Emirati plates on them inside Gaza. So we know the Emirates are involved in this. And The Emirates has the history of being the main financiers of the rapid response units in Sudan, and all that massacres that are happening, and the looting of Sudanese gold and minerals from the west of Sudan. And in Somalia, the same thing, the separatists, the secessionist Somaliland, arming Al-Shabaab and building an Israeli radar installation to look into Yemen from Somalia. This is all the Emirates. So those two stories of the attack on Jibril's grave in Damascus and the Al-Shabaab gang in Gaza revealed a lot of the hidden things for anyone that was still waiting for 100% proof on the collaboration of the Emirates, ISIS, and the Zionists in the killing and looting of Arabic societies. Here you have it.
Wow. I know what I just remembered what I wanted to ask you, and that is, I don't know what you think of it. I've been reading things about political instability inside of occupied Palestine, that the Israeli regime is, there's talk of dissolving the Knesset. I don't know how much of that is propaganda. I don't know how much of it is real. You read that stuff and people like say, oh yes, they're in deep trouble, but I put it like this. Since it is nothing but a proxy for the U.S. empire anyway, I mean, what the hell? They could get rid of the government and not have any government. In a way, to me, it's just a pretend government. But anyway, your thoughts on the fact that even though it's just a pretend government, that there's some level of instability.
Yeah, you're right. They could continue with no government. It's just anyways a killing gang, bandits and pirates and thugs and mercenaries, and the goal is to kill Arabs and Palestinians in general. And so you don't need a state for that or a government for that. And much of course, all the quote unquote democracy in the West is theatrical. Now, in terms of what's happening inside the colony, that revelation of ISIS being involved means they've been involved for a long time, since the beginning, as all other mercenary armies that the West controls, as well as all the special forces of the West, have all been involved. And we know that the Israelis admit to 15,000 Israeli soldiers killed since the beginning of this war, and admit to 20,000 permanently disabled with amputations as soldiers. Okay, so now let's put that in the context. Let's take their low estimate of this 35 dead or 35,000 dead and or with amputations, and the whole Israeli military ground forces is around 300,000, right? So we're talking about 10% dead or permanently disabled. That's what they admit. I personally think it's at least twice that number. Then we can calculate how many of these mercenaries, ISIS, Ukrainians, Indians, and special forces have died in the front lines in front of these Jews that they're protecting. Because all of these people are there to die to make sure less Zionist Jews die. Okay, so it's clear that there's at least 100,000 dead fighters on the side of Israel, various groups. Okay, and this is putting a lot of strain on the Israeli military, and there's less and less mercenaries that are being brought as the war in Ukraine becomes much more active, and there's a kind of a competition where you can send these mercenaries. Is it the Ukraine or the Zionist colony? This we could see that stress pulling inside Israel because of how Netanyahu agreed to have the Haredim, the Jewish Zionists, the religious Zionists, be forced to be conscripted to the Israeli military, which they had an amnesty from before. And that put a lot of stress on his allies, Ben Gvir and the Smotrich and others that have kept his government going. They want the Israeli military to commit genocide on their behalf while they're sitting in their synagogues reading the Torah. That's what these people want. And now that there's a shortage of mercenaries and shortage of foreign fighters, the Israeli military was accelerating the integration of these Haredim into its numbers, and there was a split. And as we see, the Shas party, one of these Haredim parties, and the parties that Ben Gvir and Smotrich belong to, have threatened to withdraw from the government and from the Knesset, and this is now prompting and triggering a early election in the Zionist colony.
Well, that's interesting. I think, it's interesting that they want all this fighting to go on and killing to go on, but they don't want to put any skin in the game. Like, no, we'll stay back here, like you said, read the Torah while you stupid bastards go out there and get blown to hell. Anyway, let's go back to where we started, which was freepalestine.video, a very, very important website. This is Free Palestine TV, but remember, it's freepalestine.video. This is Laith Marouf's site. You can see there's the latest episodes there, field reports, military operations, and of course, you can donate to Free Palestine TV. That's freepalestine.video. And when you donate, you can do a one-time donation, but it's much preferred, if you're at all able to do that, that you make it a monthly donation. That is a monthly donation. Look at the video, man. I mean, this is an outstanding website. You see people there. You're not going to get this kind of stuff. This is the only, you're one of your really only options to find it in the world. You go to mainstream media, all you're going to get is, pro-Zionist stuff all the time. So go to freepalestine.video. Share it with all your social media platforms, and most importantly, donate to Free Palestine TV. You can donate one time, preferably if you're able to donate. Wait a minute. Doggone it. Oh, there we go. If you're able to, I found us again. I'm like, where the hell did we go? But at any rate, if you're able to, definitely donate. Even if you can't donate, you can still be a part of the community, because you can share freepalestine.video on all your social media platforms, and you can advocate for others to donate. So maybe you can't afford to donate, which is fine. It's tough out here for a lot of people. But if you share it if everybody, all 481 people right now, share this on all their social media platforms, I will guarantee that there will be people that'll look at that, will go there and say, I'll give them a couple bucks. Think about how you can contribute simply by using your social media outreach and your social media presence to direct people there. And of course, other people will go there and they'll get to partake of all of the great work that Laith's doing. They'll get to learn more, and they can spread the love. Laith Marouf, thank you very much. I certainly appreciate you. Appreciate, on behalf of me and all my friends in the chat, all the good work that you do at freepalestine.video.
See you soon, Garland.
All right, everybody. Share this on all your social media platforms. If you can afford to donate a Patreon or buy me a coffee, whatever, that's fine. The most important thing is that you share this video on all your social media platforms. Let me remind everybody in the chat, you're not just an idle person. It's not like the news where you just turn on the news and you see whatever and you're like, oh, that's crap, or that's a bunch of propaganda, and you turn it off. In the alternative universe, in the alternative mediaverse, shall we say, you're actually a part of it, because after you watch some show that you like or some site that you like, when you share them out there, you're actually being a part of it. You're sharing the information, and it's critical that you take your responsibility seriously. And when you or a cause that you believe in, that you share it on all of your social media platforms, not just one. Thank you. We're out.